everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Clear as Mud, where we talk to game developers from all walks of life about their personal and professional journeys. I'm your host, Graham Waldrop. As always, our show is presented by Mudstack, the only asset management and collaboration tool custom built for game studios and digital artists. For more information, head over to mudstack.com. Today, we welcome freelance game designer William Gauthier to the show. William's career has been built around working on mobile and casual games for companies like Ubisoft and Zynga. But now he's at a bit of a career crossroads in the sense that he wants to work on independent titles that are not focused in that space. So we dive into the reasoning behind his career change, the challenges of marketing himself to indie developers, and in a rather sweet story, how he created a project at a game jam to propose to his girlfriend. It's a cool episode for us. We don't really talk to a lot of independent developers as much as we used to in the earlier days of the show, so it's cool to really talk to someone that is, trying to reinvent himself in terms of what he's going to do professionally. So he's in a unique situation where he's distancing himself, right, from the games he worked on while simultaneously using those lessons from those games to further his career and figure out a way to make a mark in a new way. So it's a cool episode, and we think you're really going to enjoy it. So without further ado, here's William. All right, so William, you've worked a lot with UI and UX. So tell me a couple of things that when you look at other people's work or other games that don't have a good example of UI or UX, what are some of the examples of bad UI UX to use, things that upset you?
Yeah, so bad UX, for instance, I really don't like the Dark Souls one, despite liking the game, because there was so much struggling, to go in all the menu, equip weapons, and you have to go and shift so many things. It's really tedious, and for a game where you have to equip gears really fast and like dodge and do many things.
And there's no pause.
Yeah,
no pause in those games.
Yeah, no pause. So that's kind of terrible. Yeah, that's something for me. It's really a good listen to see like a really good game in general, but having a bad UX, but still working in a way. Just okay, I want to play this game. It's bad, but it's not also impacting too much. And I think that it's really, I think, a Japanese specialty to have complex UX. I guess target audience really like. For me, I hate when there is too much icon menu, things popping out all the way. You have to, and when you look at the menu of also the PS4 itself, it's horrible. Like they give me an indication like, okay, I was playing on a new TV. To go there for HDR, but where? So I have to scroll around my way, and first you enter the system option. There's like 12 options, and then you reach out. So it's really like for user experience, it's really terrible. But I think it's also how they do things, and maybe as it's maybe targeted for a Japanese audience that are used to this kind of interface. So after you can adapt to anything, but it's kind of really hard to know where you have to go.
Yeah, that's interesting you bring up the PS4 UI, because I think the PS3 UI is really clear. It was really well designed, I think. But I agree, like the PS4 is kind of overwhelming. You have your games, and then you have the menu on top of the games, and you might not even know how to get to the menu. Like if you were just turning it on for the first time. I'm so used to it now because I've had PS4 for a while, but I remember when I first got it, I was like, oh, this is totally different from what I'm used to.
Yeah, exactly. It's feel you have to watch a tutorial just to know how to get there, because like, okay, I'm here, and like this kind of horizontal line, like, okay, where is my game first? How I play? Okay, they ask me to change something in the menu. Where's the menu? So yeah, there's a lot, sometimes too much options, and there's maybe you should have done like a specialized menu. Okay, if you really want, but for I think common players, we just want, okay, I want to launch my game, maybe change a bit the contrast, but that's all. Like I don't need to have my way, and it's really complex.
Right. So you've worked on a number of mobile games. which I always find are really, really tough to design for in terms of UI, UX, because you have less real estate to work with. You have less complex controls in terms of you don't have a keyboard, mouse, you don't have a controller. What are some of the tenets for you for good UI, UX?
I think first, to answer this question, you have to understand your target audience. For UI, I made for like rabbit coding. It was more for young audience, and so it was the less text, the better it was. And since I had to reshape the PC version to mobile, I say okay, I understand the logic of text, and since you have to learn how to code, it's important. But since it's also a game, it has to be joyful, which text sometimes is not really necessary. So that's the first question to answer. So how I convey a global icon that will speak to everyone. For example, we all know the wheel for option menu. Okay, I see a wheel that I understand. It's the menu. This, if it's like, for example, a microphone, it should be sound. So like try to find really clear indication. Sometimes also it's part of cultural differences. I don't remember exact example, but I know like sounds can be interpreted in many ways. So far, it seems like the bell or microphone is the best. So yeah, that's really something you have to keep in mind, like who you address the game to, and then you can work on this. And also, it's all about test. You also show, like if you have the chance to have a multicultural company, you can show different UI and colors to see if it's working well, if people understand it well, because maybe for you it's clear, but for the other it's not clear at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, starting off with the target audience. I would also think that looking at comparable games in the same genre would be important as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you study game UI. No, it's game UI database. It's tremendous amount of work where you gather all the UI of all the different games that exist from mobile to PC to console. It's really, really, really good. So good resources, so you can check what's bad, what's good, and you can also understand the pattern of UI, for example, for mobile game.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of the coolest stories I think I've heard in a while. I was looking at your website. Mm-hmm. You made a game to propose to your then girlfriend, 7 Beats to Heaven. Can you walk through sort of the inception of that idea and how you sort of married your love of game design with the person you love?
Exactly. Thanks. So I always wanted to propose in a kind of interesting and original way. I think I saw a guy make his own game to propose his girlfriend, and he make his game on his own. So since I didn't know and still don't know how to code, and I also wanted more help because it would have taken me so much time to do it on my own. So I always like game jam and say, okay, let's try. Suggest the ideas, they all get on board. So I had this amazing team, like we were like 5, so the game was not finished for the game jam, but since they really liked the idea, they helped me until the end, and I could make the game, which was also too difficult for the little joke. So my wife had really struggled to finish the game. So, and also you talk about UI. The message I chose, it was like at the end. Sorry for the spoiler, but it's like, do you? I'm your boyfriend. Do you want to be my girlfriend for life or something like that? So she didn't understand at first that I was proposing, so I had a bit to rephrase. So it a bit breaks the momentum, but in the end it was still a really funny and a really nice moment I could share. Since it's 2 years, she said yes, obviously. So
wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It sounds really personal too, right? I mean, I just think that's such a great idea. I guess and if it's a game jam game, that's really hard to play test too, right? Because you don't really have a lot of time.
Yeah. But so we did it in one weekend, and we were already a solid base. So I arrived with the game jam with already an idea, but I was always open for suggestions. So the main idea was to have like 4 rooms and gather elements who are like personal to us, but um, and the team of the game jam was 7, just only 7. So I didn't want it to impose too much. Like my game, it should be like that. I also wanted people to join aboard. I think it's a fair deal because okay, it's already personal, but so people to join, they can bring new ideas. So at the end, it was only like a platformer, but we uh, add some elements that I wanted to collect. So you have all these little gems who are like really like keywords for us, like a earth, like a I would call it like a jelly of the belly, something
Yeah,
like that.
there's always a
So,
theme.
yeah.
There's always a theme with the game jam. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically how we implemented the 7 is we had 7 seconds to go to one checkpoint to another, and to make it a bit less difficult, every time you jump, you like add a momentum where you can freeze time and get a second if you time it. So it was also to ease the experience because since it's a platformer, there's a lot of time you can waste of falling on the platform. But it was like I was really lucky to have this team because also another funny part is sound designer is a metalhead boy and he had to make such a cute song and cute stuff along the way. So it was also really nice to have someone who can really adapt also and create a really cool soundtracks and effect.
Yeah. And that's something too, I think that's really underrated in design. I think you really actually try to make a game is the impact of sound. The impact of sound and actions and positive feedback loops, negative feedback loops. How much consideration do you take with sound in terms of your design? I mean, are you thinking about that as you're making something, or do you come back to it after the design's kind of complete?
I think it depends also on the project you're working on. For instance, hyper casual, for a time they even have no sound because it was only okay, we show the game. And we saw that there was also a huge impact on the little sound, like SFX. But for me, one of my favorite game is Zelda Ocarina of Time, and the sound is like so important because you actually have to play the Ocarina. So I think if you want to really empower the gameplay experience, the sound is really key, and that's why you have to take in account from the start design. For example, if you design a combat game, what's the sound of if you want to have a realistic like fist in the face or more like a cartoonish one. So it's really impactful because the player will have a different perception of the game regarding the sound.
Yeah, and I think also too, like like fighting games, it's like a combination of the design, then the animation, and then the sound. It's all about, I think, having the right amount of weight to it, but all those things kind of got to work harmoniously together. If you pull it off, no one notices. There's like, yeah, that makes sense, but the actual process of putting all those things together is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it's actually the sound become like a trademark also for some kind. For example, the music of Halo. Halo, I have to pronounce the H. Yeah, Halo, and this kind of really following games. You all have this sharing this like hunting at some point. And you remember them. Back also to PlayStation. And there was the first PlayStation, when you open and turn on the PlayStation was this really cool, a bit sci-fi, a bit weird sound. Was really iconic too.
Yeah, that I can't even do it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like a mix like that. Yeah.
So when your girlfriend got to the end of the game and you had to explain everything that was going on, was she at Game Jam, or is this in a private area, or where were you guys?
So I had to actually hide myself because she knows I was working on something that I couldn't explain, obviously. So, and we were living in a really, really small flat in Paris. So I was literally in the corner of the flat, turning my way so I could work on the game. And for the game jam itself, I say, oh, I go to the game jam, and she of course wanted to see the game. I said, no, it's not finished. I want to show you when it's finished, and I also have to work my way on this and say, okay, we were still working on it. And finally, I show her, and also that's why I was rushing also. And the team was also really nice and also put some effort to help me. So we work not like full time, but around like 2 weeks on it. So just managing and balancing the level design. All the assets were done. A bit some tweaking in the code side also to make it easier. So yeah, my time was like, okay, I do this game jam, maybe the months after I can propose. So yeah.
That's really cool, and it's so cool also that you had friends to help you make that and help you to the finish line. So that's such a cool story. I think that's so fun.
Actually, it was not even not even friends. It was strangers. I didn't know them.
Strangers.
Before.
That's even better.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of people when they do game jam, it's usually you get together with some friends, but to do that with strangers, that's even more impressive.
I think the power of love. Let's put it that way. That's nice. And that's I was really impressed, and she was of course really touched and really thankful for them and myself too. And the only person I know, it was an ex-colleague of mine, and he also wanted to do a game jam. I said, okay, let's do it together. But all the other, I didn't know them before.
Really cool. So I remember when we talked a while ago, you had talked about wanting to get out of the mobile space into more traditional games. What sort of led to that decision of being like, I've had enough of mobile, I'm ready to branch out and do new stuff, be it VR or 3D stuff or whatever?
So when you go to mobile, and especially hyper casual, you have kind of stamp in your forehead, like your label as mobile designer. And of course, you have to do what you have to do. Have rents to pay, and sometimes I didn't have a lot of room to choose. So that's why I chose this path. But I think it's time to move on. I really appreciate the mobile market in terms of game design, because you have to think really fast, because trends are changing so much. It's really fast. The attention of players are not the same at all. So it's really an exercise for game designer to really adapt to the target audience and to the market. But especially hyper casual don't offer really complexity of PC or console and or different indie games we can see. So that's what I want to do. I have now enough experience as manager, and I want to improve more into game design, like create system, deeper gameplay mechanics, and so on.
The development time is so much shorter in mobile. I mean, it's already stressful enough making games, but to make games and churn them out fast, the way the dev times are, and the way the games are designed, I mean, I don't blame you. I'd be feeling the same way, I think.
It's like in terms of production is like maybe 10 times shorter. Like it's not even like in months. You think it's in weeks, or sometimes weeks.
Right.
So it's like for hyper casual. For mobile games, you can have room, but it's maybe 3-6 months, depends of the game. But it's really you have to think fast and act fast.
So what are you working on now then?
Myself, I would say. But I'm rebuilding a bit my portfolio, getting stronger LinkedIn, contacting. Since I have this transition, it's really hard, and I face a lot of barrier because I know how to make games, but what I can prove is only like hyper casual mobile and VR. And since also in the industry, sometimes you don't have a triple A titles, no thanks. And but
Right.
after creating a game, when it can be hyper casual mobile, it's like kind of a template. After it's, as you say, it's more the time you can do and the number of people and complexity. So yeah, it's a bit hard. I think the industry evolved also a lot, and let's say generalist people like me, I think it's a bit harder. Instead of like a technical game designer or maybe specialized in combat, for instance, will have sometimes more chance. So my profile is interesting, but it's also more mobile. Also, a lot of crypto, metaverse contacting, and it's interesting. A bit harder than I thought. Maybe I was a bit too confident in that sense.
Are you making any prototypes that could help you find a position, where you are making something in 3D or making something that's more akin to the studios you want to work for?
Yeah, exactly. So I started also to write a bit some articles on LinkedIn to see also how I can promote in that sense, and also maybe to show I can analyze game. But you're right. It's something I want to do, especially trying a bit of Unreal because I mainly use Unity so far. So I want to put my foot on it. It's something I want to try. Also, maybe later I will create a small team, like studio, to make a fast game. Because I always wanted to create my studio. I have a bigger project in mind, but will require so much money. So I also have to try to be my own boss, and if I can manage employee and so on. So I think it's better to start with a small project. If it fails, it fails, but at least you know and learn some valuable lesson, I guess.
Yeah, and hopefully you get something out of it. Even if it fails, at least you have something that's like, okay, I can put this in my portfolio.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's always interesting to talk to folks that are working in the business and talking about the nature of crunch or toxic work environments. Do you have any experience dealing with that?
Well, hyper casual is almost always crunch. So, it's hard to manage because yes, you have to balance your work life and your personal life. And when the work life takes so much space in your personal life, then everything is impacted. But if you don't also deliver, then your work life is impacted. So it's a choice you have to make. So yeah, I did a lot of extra work hours were totally unpaid, and at the end, not really even considered. And I think if you enter in this process, you know what you have to challenge and what you have to do it for the company or for yourself. But I will never do it again. I think you have to set yourselves some values and some boundaries, and I think it's really more important to put them at the beginning than this is my 40 hours. I do this at this time. I can work more, but you pay me, and that has to be written, signed, and it's okay. Of course, there is some marketing strategy where you have to deliver some game at a time, but that doesn't mean employee has to obey all the time, and you have to fight for your rights. Okay, you can do extra hours, but they need to be paid, and and also not be constantly repeated. I assign for 40 hours. I have other things to do than working, and I have also my personal life. So thanks, but no thanks.
In the first couple of years, you start working in the industry. It's really easy to fall into the trap, I think, of immersing yourself in everything, going not even the extra mile, but 10 extra miles, and living a really unhealthy lifestyle. When people do that, they either burn out or they learn to balance things a little better because it's just not sustainable to do that over a long period of time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I burn out sometimes, but it's like the usual process. Okay, you work a lot, then you realize, okay, I haven't seen this friend for a really long time. I haven't sent a text, I haven't called, and you say, okay, that maybe my work take too much space in my life.
Yeah.
I think we all arrive at this space. No matter what, we love our job, but there should be some limit. Like work is part of your life. We maybe spend maybe 50 to 70% of our life in it. But at some point, if you only live for your work, then especially if it's not your company, that's makes not so much sense, I think.
I agree with that. I think it's a cool trend in the industry now where there's a lot of these newer companies being started by AAA veterans where, some of them are offering equity in the company that they're starting. So it's like you have a share of it. Company success can be your success, which I think is a cool trend that's happening right now.
Yeah, it makes things more fair and empower more people. Okay, you work for us, but you also gain with us. That's really big difference. And if I one day create my company, I will definitely set up things like that because it's so important. It's really hard to find people and keep people, and I think company has to adapt to people and not people adapting to a company. That's I think uh, a fair also work environment where okay you you will have an impact. You will not have to be
Yeah.
a random person, but we want you to grow with us and stay with us and learn with us and also teach us. So that's what is I think really important nowadays.
If you were to start your company and you were working on a project, what would be your ideal like starting team size?
Well, that's really hard. It's more to replace the skill I don't have. For example, I
Right.
would definitely need a coder, 3D artist, and a specialized crowdfunding slash marketing person. And for all the game design, UX, UI, I could do it, but I think it's better also to have another artist, illustrator, 2D artist, and conceptual artist. I don't want to also to enter the game where okay you have to do everything you
Right.
thanks.
Yeah.
So it's also learn from the lesson I learned where you ask when you see a job description where okay you have to learn 10 language and also do game design and like okay this make absolutely no sense, but also in a way you have to give room for people to give you feedback and grow with you. So yeah, I think six person is should be a really good start. The best is 10, but it's always the same money.
Yeah.
And
Money is always the problem. Yeah.
yeah, if you have like money, that's fine. You can have the team. But I think if you also
Right.
start too high, then you can't know your team at some point because okay, I have too much people,
Yeah.
I can't know them. So I think you have to start really low, 5, 6, and reach 10. Then all this milestone, and yeah, don't go too fast. Or I see also when you start with a small team and lots of money in Evolve, it can create really tragic. There's so much stories about that where people only see data and money and don't think about human anymore. They say, okay, we need to
Yeah.
reach this goal, this goal, this goal. Okay, you didn't reach by, that's all. And you are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years in the industry and like just vanish because the company didn't adapt to you. You had to adapt so much, and yeah, that's the problem. Some
Yeah.
studio face.
I think that's a problem a lot of people face that have excess funds. They think, if we just hire this many people, it'll work. Whereas it's not really having the money; it's how you spend it. It's having a plan around spending the money. I think is the most important thing because you could blow a lot of money on a lot of positions that you don't need right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you do that, then you set yourself back completely. Can you talk at all about the game you want to make?
Actually, I don't have a game to make. It's more because I see so much project left on who are so nice, but it's all because they don't have money or people. It's solo project, and it's more working because sometimes I'm better at working on other game ideas and create my own game ideas. So it's more an ambition to gather people, create a project in that sense.
Hmm.
And but after some also ideas, it's more like ideas and maybe you will give me like this input where I will sit down and create the game I want to make.
Hmm.
But me, I really like also a couch co-op and really
Yeah,
mayhem games like Magica or Overcook and
I love Overcooked. Yeah,
yeah, and
my wife and I have almost gotten divorced like 5 times playing Overcooked, both of
yeah,
them.
same for us.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's this kind of game, but yeah, it's um, and also more ambitious like narrative like Deus Ex. The first one was one of
hmm,
also my favorite game where there's this really deep layer of complexity and darkness, which you don't really find so often, or maybe I don't know too much of this kind of game. But I think the other Deus Ex did not have this kind of vibe. The first one had, or also the first Fallout were really
yeah,
particular and really dark and also comic at the same time.
hmm.
So yeah, but I will need to sit down. Maybe it's the moment to do it until I have some time. So yeah, I think there will be a lot of things for me going on for 2023, and I will have to make many decision regarding okay if I have to show myself in this kind of studio, take some risk. But since yeah, I am married, I'm not alone in this, so it's really difficult decision. But I know my wife will support me and my family nonetheless. But yeah, I will have to make some choices.
Well, it's just kind of frustrating, I think, for you. I mean, I can't only imagine, but like you've worked on games for years,
Mhm.
and you've released a lot of games, but the AAA space, just because of the space you worked in, won't let you in. That's just got to be super frustrating.
It's also AAA is not maybe a goal. It's more indie. I was also, but
Or
of
indie,
course,
yeah.
if
Hmm.
you have a AAA experience, it's always good to jump. But it's the same for
Or yeah,
yeah.
not just AAA,
Mhm.
but being in making the games that you're talking about, making an Overcooked, making a Deus Ex, or something in that space. It doesn't necessarily have to be AAA, but just because you worked in uh, mobile or whatever, it's like or casual.
Mhm. Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
That's
Understand.
that's not right.
It's
Yeah,
not right, but yeah, it's. I mean, it's. You can also do a parallel with another like industry. Okay, you work in auditing and you want to do maybe healthcare. So why I will recruit you? Maybe you are really the big boss of banking, but yeah. So it's just giving a
but it's not like you
chance.
worked
Mhm.
in. Yeah, it's not like you worked in something that's totally unrelated. It's not like you worked in finance and you're like, I'm going to go make video games now, so hire me. It's like you've worked in video games.
Yeah,
You know?
but also yeah, for personal story, I came from accounting. That's why I can. But I yeah
Oh, did you?
yeah I
Okay.
had a bachelor degree in like charter accounting, but I realized what I didn't want to do with these studies, but not what I wanted to do. So it's possible. I think in certain stage of your life. So if you're junior, it's where it's so hard to understand to enter in the industry. Or sometimes you have to start with what you can and
Yeah.
now I'm also in a phase. Okay, I have experience, but in mobile, very casual, and maybe a company will be understanding. But for the main part, it's always barrier. Okay, you don't have this little box in your CV, so no, no, thank you, no. And I think it's better to know the person and what she can learn, because skills can be learned. But having person who can adapt and bring what you need is more important. And having directly the like all the box ticked for me.
Well, William, wish you best of luck
Thank you.
in this endeavor, and I hope if you do wind up making something on your own, that goes well and it gets you where you need to be. And anything you want to plug here at the end of the show, we always like to give people the chance to plug their work or plug anything they like.
If I have to say something, never give up on your dream. Fight for what you seems right. If some people hear me out, and you can maybe have a look at all my portfolio, LinkedIn, and we can chat. I'm always available to chat. It can be also providing advice for junior. I help and always be happy to provide help. And I think it's really important when you get experience and people reach you out. They don't know, they may be scared or overwhelmed by the industry, to always give what you learn so they don't do the same mistake, or they understand how to approach the industry better.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. William, thank you so much, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much to you, and it was really nice chatting with you.
All right, that's going to wrap up our show. We want to thank William again for being our guest. To find out more about Mudstack, head over to mudstack.com, where you can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and join our community on Discord. And of course, we want to thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Clear as Mud.